get paid by the demo. So we're going to start out with the world's easiest, lamest demo. Reminder of our scope. Talk about whether it's a good idea for you to create a chatbot. And then really the meat of this is what are our options for storing questions and answers? And then we'll start from scratch, build the chatbot, connect it to question and answer repositories, a couple different options, and then we'll hopefully escalate to a human, and then just some top of mind things that I've come up with working with customers the last handful of months around this. Real quick, so I hate the sound of my own voice. Let's not have my voice be for the whole hour and a half. Feel free. I am totally cool with you coming off of mute, asking a question at any time. If you're not comfortable with that, raise your hand in Teams. Post a comment in the chat. Tiernan's going to watch it for me and interrupt me if I'm not watching it. So please interrupt at any time. I know that it's early for some of you. I'm on my second Mountain Dew, so catch up and let's make it interactive. All right, lame joke number 2 out of the way. We're on a good pace here. All right, so what I'd like to do real quick is if you could just take this poll. This is just a way for me to understand kind of where everybody's at, to see if I need to skip some things, go slower on some things. So if you wouldn't mind filling this poll out real quick, I put the link in the chat as well. Just give you a second, and then we'll look at some responses. Nobody's going to fill it out. Is that what I'm seeing?
Can you post it back up, Corey?
Oh, yep. Thanks.
I think it went really fast. Or I'm slow.
All right. So I put the link in the chat. I put the QR code up here. Or Michelle, you're just heckling me, maybe. I assumed hecklers today. All right. Hopefully that was enough time. All right, we got some people. I just needed to be patient. All right, let's refresh again. So half and half on Power Automate. That's cool. I am hopefully we'll get you to build a Power Automate flow. That'll be fun. Most people haven't created a Power Virtual Agent, which is totally cool. And 3 people went for what now? That's funny. Everybody's a SharePoint expert. All right, softball. Most people have not heard or used. 1 person has. Sweet. All right, and then my surefire way of identifying weird. Actually, there's no weird people in the session today. I'm totally kidding. Okay, thank you for filling this out. Okay, so we got about half and half that have done Power Virtual Agents, Power Automate. So some of the a bunch of the stuff is going to be new, so that should be fun. All right, thank you for appeasing me. Now back to the deck. That's not the deck. All right, let's move on. All right, so what is a chatbot? I did a bunch of searches. I think we all kind of have in our mind what it means. I think Oracle actually, funny enough, had the best one. It's a computer program that simulates human conversation, allowing humans to interact with digital devices as if they were talking to a person. The Power Virtual Agent site says commonly used across many different industries for many different purposes. Well, that was super helpful. Great. And then this one on Merriam-Webster says it's a bot that is so super helpful. All right. Here's in my mind what we're talking about. You, human, are going to instant message, DM, chat, voice, whatever, with a computer program. You're going to talk to it like it's a human. It's going to go back and it's going to do some stuff. It's going to do lookups in databases. It's going to call different functions. It's going to do its thing, maybe get an answer, maybe look up, and then it's going to shoot a chat back to you just like I would shoot a chat back to you as a human. All right. That's what that's the definition of a chatbot that I'm going by today. If you disagree, you let me know. All right. First demo. Let's get it out of the way. It's going to be amazing. All right. So I'm going to do this from Microsoft Teams, but it could be anywhere. I've got a bot called MSP. Don't worry about the name. And I'm going to ask it a question around how much storage do I get in SharePoint online? And we will cross our fingers and toes, see if we are going to get an answer. So I posted a chat to this thing called MSP, and it posted a response with an answer. We'll get into what this means later. So this is it. That's the demo one done. So this is what we mean by chatbot. We're gonna keep it to a specific scope today, but I can do all kinds of different things, and we'll get into some more examples. That's chatting with a bot. Done. All right, back. This is really hard when I can't see or talk to anybody. So let me know how things are going in the chat. All right, so quick reminder of our scope. This was the little clickbait verbiage I threw in the session description. We're going to keep it to a chatbot in Teams. So we're going to use Dataverse for Teams. If you don't know what that is, we'll talk about it. So we're going to do a chatbot in Teams. This is really going to be around frequently asked questions to help you save some time on repetitive questions. We're going to look at options for where to store those questions and answers. We're going to look at a really simple agent transfer mechanism, escalation mechanism. I'm going to focus on no code. I'm going to try to do this as free or cheap as possible, but we'll talk about all kinds of different options. So the chatbot scope could be really big. It could be multiple conversations. It could be lookups to database and giving you data. I'm focusing this on this scope for a specific reason. This has come up with a number of customers that I've worked with in the last handful of months. So I figured let's just talk about what we've learned together. All right. So let's get into, should you build a bot? And as I was reviewing this morning, I noticed I was in some kind of mood when I built this. So the snark meter is sounding today. It's high. All right. So if you're thinking through, hey, I want to build a bot, or somebody comes to you, hey, we're thinking of building a bot. If this is just replacing something where you go to office.com or you go to SharePoint or you go wherever, and you can search and get really good results or the same results, and you're just trying to mimic that over in a bot, you probably shouldn't do it. Just go do the search. You're not really adding anything. You're just adding work in another place to manage something. If you have a request form that's not super big and maybe it'd be easier to fill it out with a bot, either back and forth or just giving them an adaptive card, maybe. I could see that. If you got this big form, 50 fields, and you're like, oh, this would be awesome to put in a bot because bots are the new hotness. No. If you answer a lot of repetitive questions and you kind of have static curated answers that maybe you haven't put together yet and you just got to put them together, yeah, I think so. If you got a complex branching process that your form would be really complicated and maybe you need to see what they answer before you give them something back, yeah, I think that back and forth would probably warrant a bot. And if you just need a lot of flexibility to be able to do just ask anything, figure out what they're saying, and automate the completion of that request, whether it's an answer or pointing them somewhere or giving them a piece of data, then yes. So obviously this isn't super prescriptive, and as I said, the snark level is high. What I really just wanted to call out here is before you go build a bot or somebody asks you to build a bot, just ask some questions, okay? Don't assume like it's what you should do because you can and it's not that hard. Just be thoughtful, ask some questions before you go do it. That fair? Bonnie gives me the thumbs up, thank you. All right, anybody disagree with any of these or would want to add anything? All right, y'all need your Mountain Dew. Okay, let's move on. So now that we've filtered out and you're still here, you still want to build a bot, let's talk about where we would store that question and answer. The how much storage do I get in SharePoint Online? The answer is 1 terabyte plus 10 gig, whatever it was. There are way more options than this, but I'm hopefully going to give you some that are representative of most. So we're going to start with Power Virtual Agent. So we're assuming we're going to build a Power Virtual Agent inside of Teams, and we'll see exactly what a Power Virtual Agent is. It is Microsoft's low-code chatbot creation service. So we're going to use it in Teams. So that means if you have a Microsoft 365 or Office 365 license, you're using Teams today, you can build this with that license. So I can do this with just out-of-the-box topics. We'll see what that means. And it's good for getting started really quick. It's included. And it's good for when you don't have like a ton of these static Q&A pairs. We'll talk about Q&A Maker a little bit. Pour one out for Q&A Maker. It's dead. If you got in before it died, you can still use it, but it's dying. So we'll talk about what that is. But Q&A Maker and this cognitive services for language question answering is a dedicated repository search, management, analytics service around question answering. So it is built just for that. It's in Azure. There's free options, but there may be some cost to it. And then inevitably, I always get the question, can I put this stuff in SharePoint? So the answer is yes. We will look at whether or not that is a good way to do it. You certainly can. It's included, right, with your licenses. A little more work to do it. All right. So these are the options. We're going to dig into them in a little more detail here. So Power Virtual Agent topics, as I said, included. The topics, if you have a lot, can be a little cumbersome to manage, but you can do things like importing sites and docs, and here's a link to learn more. We're going to look at all of these. I'm going to run through these really quick, but you can. Why did Q&A Maker die? Just curious. So I don't know why it died, but it's been around for a little bit. It was really good. I loved it. I've used it for at least 5 years, something like that, 4 years. So it was replaced by Azure Cognitive Services for Language Question Answering. So that's the long-term successor. That's a long-term solution. And actually there is a way to migrate, take your Q&A Maker repository and move them into language. So it's not like you got to recreate everything. But so the short answer, Connor, I am not sure why it died. There's been a number of those things lately that I've noticed. So here it is. So if you were lucky enough, if you noticed this, I was out there looking and it was just like out of the blue. I didn't even note it. I don't remember getting the notification. I'm sure it came, but I missed it. So if you created a Q&A Maker repository before October, still good, still usable until 2025. But if you haven't, out of luck, can't create it. So I'm going to skip through this for the most part, since I think there was one person, the one person that said they had used Q&A Maker or Cog Services for Language. Maybe just come off mute or chat. Which one of those did you use? Be shy. All right, we're going to be shy.
That was me, Corey. I had used it just kind of testing around and building a knowledge base for our team's deployment, and when users had basic questions.
Okay.
We really hadn't evolved yet in our internal knowledge base.
Okay. So if you didn't delete it, it's still around. You can still use it for a while. And there's benefits to it. So let's call out the benefits. We're going to use Power Automate workflow tool to call these services to get our data back. We're going to call SharePoint. We're going to call Cog Services. Well, the connector in Power Automate is standard for a Q&A Maker. That's cool. the connector for cloud services for language is premium. So that's why I say if you got Q&A Maker, maybe you want to use that for a little bit longer. It's like Exchange Server and PVA is like maybe. Well, I would say, so Michelle, I would say there are two different things. PVA is a complete bot framework, and Builder Q&A Maker is just the Q&A service. So we'll talk about why I would want a Q&A service versus a complete bot. So this is the long-term solution for if I want to store Q&A question and answer pairs. It is in Azure. So if you're not in Azure daily and this scares you, don't be afraid. We're going to walk through it today. You might have to ask an admin to create it for you, but it's fairly straightforward. Connor can attest or deny that. So the connector is premium, so we got to keep that in mind. But the search is really being able to say, here's my question, get back an answer, really simple, one action. I can import sites and docs just like I can in Power Virtual Agents, natural language processing, so not being able to ask a question and it figures out if it's similar to semantically this question that I put in there, alternate phrases, training it, analytics, there's lots of good stuff in there. And then this can be used by any application, not just chatbots. So we'll talk about other ideas, like maybe a chatbot is good today, ask my question, but maybe people are sending me questions in email. Nothing stopping you from creating a workflow to take that email, send it to your question and answer system here and get it back and then respond with an email. So let's just keep that in mind. Here's a link if you want to learn more. And then finally, everybody's favorite, every single one of you has created a SharePoint online list. So it's included. It's not built for Q&A. We can do some things to make it. It's included, standard connector. You do have to build and parse the search yourself, which we'll see. So it's a few more actions. All right, demo number 2, a little bit more difficult than demo 1, or a little more complex. So there is one thing I'm going to skip just for time purposes. There's a link in the appendix. If you have not created a Dataverse for Teams environment, an instance in Teams, you're going to have to go do this before you can do what I'm going to show you now. Just in the it just takes more time than I want to wait. So we're going to go over to demo, see how we're doing. All right. So when you go into Teams, you go to Power Apps, and you're going to create an app in there, and that's going to provision a Dataverse for Teams environment in which you can create chatbots, apps, workflows in Teams, part of your license. Okay, that's got to be done first. Link in the appendix. Once I do that, I can come in to my apps. I have Power Virtual Agents in here. If you aren't finding it, you can go search for it, or somebody might have to install it for you. So we're going to go into the Power Virtual Agents app within Microsoft Teams. Then we're going to go to chatbots, and we're going to see that I have some, and we're going to get a lay of the land here. So the stuff on the left are my teams. So you get environments per team that you install Dataverse for Teams on, and then I can put chats in there. So all of these chatbots are tied to a specific team. We're keeping the scope in Teams because it's included. I'm assuming people are going to ask in Teams. You can certainly create Power Virtual Agents that can be called from your external facing website, from Facebook, from whatever. That is the full-blown Power Virtual Agents. We're talking extra licenses. You can totally do that, not the scope of today. Okay, this is not a Power Virtual Agents I don't know, deep dive specifically today on everything you can do with it. We're going to use it within the scope of Teams. All right, I'm going to create a new chatbot. I do have a backup here in case this takes a little longer than I want to wait. So I'm going to pick the team that I want to put it in. You're only going to see the teams where I've created my Dataverse for Teams environment. Let the spinning begin. All right, we're going to call this MN365 Q&A. We're going to speak some poorly typed English today, and we're going to create that. All right, so this is going to go create a Power Virtual agent. This is going to be something that we can call similar to the one that I did earlier. So this MSP guy right here, or gal, is a Power Virtual agent that I created and set up these topics and stuff. So that created it for us. It's going to do a few things, so we might have to be kind of patient. We're going to look at topics. So it's going to create a bunch of topics for us. It's still working. We can try to test our luck here and say, let's test this bot. So we'll look at these trigger phrases, but I know it's when are you closed by item. So let's just try. Let's see if it's awake. When are you closed? All right, we have a chatbot done. So, and then it's going to give me a little refresh because it was not quite ready to be talked to. So we have a chatbot that's functioning. It kind of comes with this template of topics. So let's look at a topic. What is a topic? Kind of looks a little similar to Power Automate if you're used to kind of an orchestration, a workflow orchestration canvas. So this is the canvas for managing topics within a Power Virtual Agent. So this says, hey, if you type any of these things in a chat to this bot, that's going to trigger this topic. And then it's going to send back a message, and actually 2 messages, and then it's going to be done. It's going to go to another topic. So we could create, why don't we create our own topic? Let's say new topic. And then I'm going to say, should I create a chatbot? Right, so that's our trigger phrase. And then the message that the bot is going to send back is probably not. That's how we're going to get down today. We're going to save it. And we are going to go to the details, and we're going to change it to give it a name. All right, so save. All right, let's test it. We can still do the when are you closed. That's the other topic. I should click in there. When are you closed? Just confirm that that topic's still working. Cool. How about should I create a chat bot? All right, so a few things. Since I'm in this canvas here with the topic open, I noticed I got some green check marks. So this is like real-time kind of debugging. I got my answer, probably not. Did that answer your question? So it went through the other topic. So I can say, sure. And then it's going to do some things. So there's some nice handy built-in stuff here. So that is our first topic. We can look at a few others just to make sure. So if I click into, are there any stores? So I get a little more complex. I got some question. I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to branch, condition, come back, and then go to another topic. So let's ask, are there stores near me? So again, we've gone down, green check marks. We're at a question. It's giving me some options. So that's cool. Let's say Redmond. And then it should go down the left-hand side, posted me a message, and then went to the end of the conversation. So this is linking to another topic. So I can, I can create one that can be used by many, okay? So that is our chatbot. Any questions so far? I know probably remedial for some, new for others. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna publish this. Publish. So we've been testing it kind of in our own little sandbox for now. It wasn't available to anybody, still isn't available to anybody until I put it in the store and publish it out there. But now we're going to put it so we can see it like we did the MSP bot. you circle the opposite way, it goes faster. All right. So the next thing that we're going to do once this publishes is we are going to create a new repository. So I could go in and create, all right, we're done. So I can do a bunch of things. I'm going to just open it up for now. So if you've ever added an app, this should look fairly similar. This is going to add it to the personal context. So I should see it show up on the left-hand side here. Here's my bot. So can I say, should I create a chat bot? All right, we got a working, functioning bot. I could go put that. I could ask my admin to install it for everybody. I could deploy it just to a few people, but we have a functioning bot in Teams. It's not in my sandbox. We're ready to go. So I'm going to actually pull up another tab so we can work on this at the same time. We'll pin and we will come back into Power Virtual Agents. I'm going to flip a little bit. This is the one from today. All right, so that's our bot we're going to talk to throughout our time together. We've got a functioning bot. Doesn't do a whole lot of amazing stuff, a little snarky, but we're gonna hook it up. So let's go back into my bot. So the first option is I created that topic. I could go nuts and I could just create a bunch of topics with every question that I think I'm going to get with an answer. And so I would have them here. They would be really simple set of actions here. I could do that. It works great. If you've got a lot, I would say it's a little cumbersome to put them all in here. You can also grab a link. So if you've got a site with FAQ in it already, or you got a document, you could import that and have it build out the topics. That's useful. So anybody could do that. We could do that now. But I'm going to take a different approach. I want to put these. I want to create a repository just for Q&A, and I'm going to have a kind of a single topic hit it. So we're going to go over to COG Services for Language and create a new repository. So I'm going to switch browsers. So I'm in Azure. Don't be afraid. It's okay if you're not an Azure person. So I'm just going to create a new resource. I'm going to search for cognitive services for language. Spelled it correctly. Score. So we're going to create a language service. And then there's this thing, there's all kinds of stuff that the language service will do. Lots of fancy, cool stuff. We're specifically interested in question answering. Okay, so we're going to create, let's skip something. I think I did. All right, I'm terrible. All right, so this is what we created for now. I asked a question to my Power Virtual Agent. It came back with response from a topic. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to build this out a little bit. We're going to take that Power Virtual Agent. We're going to create a new topic. It's a system one called Fallback. And we're going to call a Power Automate workflow that is then going to call our different repositories that we're going to have our questions and answers. So we're going to build these out on the right, and then we're going to get it to call it where an author would update that. If you would, there's some expressions during this that you can grab, and we'll go out here to this low code repo. All right, now that I'm back on track, showing you what I'm going to do. Back to demo. All right, question answering. Please stop me if I am confusing you with my back and forth. We're going to create our resource. I like Central. I'm going to give it a name. Q&A language. Hopefully nobody stole it. They didn't. So there's a free tier. I'm already using my free tier pool. So I'm going to do this S tier. We could. I have links in the appendix for the pricing details. We're talking pennies per use kind of stuff, right? We're going to do Central, and I'm not going to be allowed to use free, so we're going to use basic. going to say yes, and I'm going to say create. So this is going to create a cognitive services for language resource that I can use the question answering service to build a repository, and I need to hit create while I'm talking. So this might take a minute. And then once I get this set up, I'll have a spot where somebody really doesn't have to play with the bot so much. They just come in here and they're going to manage the questions and answer pairs. And again, now this is a service that I could use wherever. You want to answer emails? Great. You want to answer tweets? Great. You want to answer in a bot? Great. Now I have this single resource that I can use in lots of different places. All right, did we create? We're in progress. We can, let's go find, let's see. All right, I got one I created yesterday. We got this one. Let's click on it. Let's see. So there's this thing called Language Studio. So we're going to click on that. And then this is the place where we're going to manage our repository. Grabbing a link because we're going to use it. So I do need to flip. If you've never created one before, it'll take you, bam, right into your resource. I've created a few, so I'm just going to have to pick the one that I believe is this. Uh-oh, I'm early, I think. All right, we'll give it a second. I'm a little early. This is what happens sometimes when you try to go from scratch, but I like going from scratch because it doesn't hide anything. There's no pre-baked casseroles. All right, we'll give it a second. So let's look at our pre-baked casserole. Why not? So this is the one that I created yesterday. So here's what our repository can look like now. So we saw in Power Virtual Agents, I created a topic and I put the triggers as my question. Here, I'm going to add question pairs to this repository. So I'm just going to fill this in with all my question and answer pairs. How much storage do I get? I can say, when did the Twins win the World Series? 27. And then I can do other things like alternate phrases, follow-up prompts. Do I want to put some metadata in so I can have the same question with different metadata so that I can filter out answers? This is when I get into advanced capabilities that just aren't ever probably going to be in like a PVA topic. So I can submit that. So now I'm going to really confuse you. We're going to bounce out and just see. Did I save? Let's save. All right, we're going to come over here. We're going to fail. We're just coming up. Fail today. All right, we're going to look at this. And we didn't get an error. All right, we're going to create a new project. The project name is going to be this. And then, so when there's no answer, it's going to return with no answer found. I am totally cool with that. This is what we're going to get. So created. All right, so let's add a source. So I'm going to pull one from a URL. And I have a URL, and this is in the, there's a link in the appendix that will walk you through kind of this tutorial. This is the Surface like setup guide or something. So we'll see. So I'm just going to add that, and actually we can come over here and see what I'm talking about. Open. So we have a file, Surface Book User Guide. So we just have this file that somebody created out here, useful for people to help with their Surface setup. I don't want to go through this and pull everything out, so I'm just going to have it do it for me because I'm lazy. Over here. So I just gave it the URL, and now if I click on this, it pulled out all the question and answers that it found. So if I test this, I can say, how do I set up my service book? Came back with an answer. I didn't put that in there, but it figured it out on its own. It's got some options. So I haven't published here. I'm just quickly testing. So it created question and answer pairs from that document, similar to what PBA can do. So that's pretty handy, but I want to add my own, right? You don't have to come from a document. The use case here is I got a team of 5 or 10 and we're getting a lot of questions and email. We need to save ourselves a little time. So I might go through those emails, pull out questions, and I'm going to throw them in here. So I might throw in how much storage do I get in SharePoint? All right, and then we're going to say one. I think I'm right. Per user. I can add in these other things. I'm going to submit it for now, and then we're going to test. All right, it didn't like that. I may need to change a filter here. So let's go back to my source. Oh, I didn't save. Nobody told me in the chat to save. Man, thought y'all were looking out for me. All right, saving is taking a long time. That's making me nervous. All right, we saved. Now we can test. Clear. All right, I get an answer. So the nice thing about this, again, natural language processing. I don't have to give every permutation of what somebody could put in. If, hopefully I don't prove myself wrong here, but if I say, what do I get for storage in SharePoint? Should kind of figure that out. So I didn't put that in there anywhere. So this is where I get the extra bits. Some of the other extra bits I get is in what is returned from the service when we make a call to it. So I get this, there's this confidence score. So now I can start to do things like, hey, when somebody asks a question, I want to automate this as much as I can, right? It would have given me some other answers, but it's giving me the one with the highest confidence score. So I can put some automation to say, if this confidence score is higher than 75%, I'm going to send that to the user, to the employee. If not, I'm going to maybe log it somewhere and let my agent staff know to kind of check it out. We need to put an answer in here we don't have a good one. So I can start to do some more complex things. Finding these. So I can do some more complex things to automate this process. All right, so now we are going to publish this bad boy. We're going to deploy. So the one weird thing that has changed in the past few months since I've used this is you can't create this editorial source that I can find. I added it to the one that was created for the URL, and then this one created. So now I've got this editorial one. So I can this is my place where people can just go. I say, go nuts, go in here, add all your Q&A pairs. And then this is going to be our repository for that. We're going to deploy. We're going to deploy, and we're going to deploy. So now this is kind of that publishing, putting it in production, and then we're going to use information here to make our calls from Power Virtual Agents. All right. Before we go back to PVA, questions on what I've done so far. All right. Be that way. All right, so we're going to go back to Power Virtual Agents now. So this is my agent, my chatbot. And I'm going to add in a new topic here, but it's a different kind of topic. So I'm going to leave all of these topics in here. These, you can ask them when it's closed or should I create, that's cool. But if you ask a question that the agent says I don't have a topic for, there's nothing triggering it, it's called a fallback topic. It isn't preview, but it's a system topic. So I'm going to add it. So the system just knows if I don't trigger any of the topics that we've created, I'm going to go to this fallback one. So here's the fallback. Put in some stuff here. Unrecognized user input. So I didn't know what they were asking for. I didn't have a topic. So I'm going to come to this one. And then what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to call a Power Automate workflow to call our question and answer repository we just created. So if I come in here, let me hit the plus. All right. It should be pretty clear. Like if you're going to do anything in Power Virtual Agents to automate stuff, look, there's only 4 options. You're either going to ask a question, show a message, go to another topic, or if you want to do some cool stuff, you're creating a flow. So let's create a Power Automate flow. So for those that haven't created a Power Automate workflow, it is a workflow that triggers on when I add a file to a SharePoint list, when I receive an email at 8 o'clock every night, or manual. It is just a workflow that can trigger whenever. I am going to trigger it from my Power Virtual Agent. So I've got a template here for Power Virtual Agent. So I'm going to get called by the Power Virtual Agent, and I'm going to send something back to the Power Virtual Agent. So we're going to add input, and we're going to get text. So this is going to be question. This is the unanswered question. Okay. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add an action, and we're going to initialize a variable. My variable is going to be called answer. It is a string. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is the fancy work. I am going to look for question answering. So basically, these are a bunch of connectors to lots of different systems. Hopefully you're seeing Microsoft ones, not Microsoft ones. Bunch of connectors. A connector is a wrapper on another system's API. So if I look at language question answering, this is the one. I'm going to generate an answer from a project. So here's the green premium. So this is something to keep in mind. We're going to need a premium license to use this. Maybe it makes sense for you in this case. Maybe it doesn't. We'll talk about some options, totally up to you. But this is the API call that has been wrapped that we're going to use without writing any code. So we're going to generate an answer and the project name. So let's go see what I called the project, because I forgot. All right, my project is MN365 Q&A. The question now is I get the ability to add dynamic content. So this is all the outputs from actions above. I only got 2, so I'm going to grab the question that came in up here. I'm going to do production, API version, great. Here's where I can do some other fancy things. I'm just going to grab the top answer. I only want the 1. You could grab the top 5 or whatever, do whatever you want. This is where I could do some fancy stuff. I only want the answer to come back if it's 75% confident. I want to use a different ranker. I want to do different filtering. You can go nuts and do some really cool stuff here to make sure you don't give bad garbage. Okay, I'm going to keep it at this. And then when I come into my, I'm going to add a new action, and we are going to set a variable now. we're going to set the answer to, now I get a few more options. I'm going to get the answer from my question answering call. So it notices that I could get more than one answer. So it did the loop for me. So that's where the applied each comes in, pretty handy. But if you've never seen that before, it can freak you out. All right, I'm done. I'm going to call this MN365 Q&A answer question. Answer question. All right, we're going to save, cross our fingers. Now, there was a little something that we skipped in the connection. So we created a connection here. I created it before it grabbed it. So I needed to give it some credentials. So there's an account key and a site URL. So let's go through that just to make sure. And I actually probably need to do it because it's using the old one. So yeah, we need to do this. I would have got really frustrated with an error. All right, so we're going to come to our resource. We're going to grab this endpoint equals, that's the same thing as a URL. Bam, URL, count key. Let's go get that. We need to look at keys. Grab the first one, go back. We'll put in our key. We will create. All right. Now we should be good to go. Save again. Whew, that would have been annoying. All right, did we save? We saved. Now we're going to hit the back button. What? All right, that was weird. All right, I don't know why I didn't capture. I probably hit the wrong button. So we're going, what do we call it? Answer question. All right, so we're going to call that flow, and we are going, it is expecting question. So I'm going to give it unrecognized trigger phrase. Okay. And then I am going to wipe this out because I don't need this anymore. The bot is going to post back the answer. So if I look at my variables, where are you? All right, what did I do wrong now? I'm going to show a message. Let's look at this. Leave. Oh, I forgot to put my output. All right. So we're going to give it some text, and the text is going to be answer, and the answer is going to come from the variable answer. Let's go through that again. I'm receiving a question from the bot. I'm creating an answer variable. I'm going to get an answer from our COG services for language repository. I'm going to loop through every answer I get. I'm going to set the answer variable to the answer from the repository, and then I'm going to send the answer back to the Power Virtual Agent. So that is why I wasn't seeing it. Fail number 2, add it to the list. All right, now can I go back and let's try again. I'm just going to wipe this. We'll just save, add, action, answer question. I'm going to give it the unrecognized trigger phrase. Now it says it gives value to answer. That is helpful. Thank you. We're going to show a message. Now I should have answer. So that is helpful. And then we'll leave escalate in here. That is actually, I think we're going to do end conversation. And we'll see what that does. And that is no longer used. So let's see, let's save it. Let's see what happens. How are we doing so far? Little hiccups in there. Did I lose? If I lost you, let me know. All right, we're going to test. How much storage do I get? Actually, let's do setup. All right, we got some green. So that means we came through this fallback topic. We went out, we got an answer. And then the end of conversation topic did the, hey, did that answer your question thing? So we can look at our flow. So for those of you that have created Power Automate flows, this is the same screen you would normally see. So this says we got a call to our flow. So if I go in here and I look at this, I'm gonna kill that. We got a green check mark. So we came through, we got the question from the bot, we set our variable, we got our answer. So here's some JSON, don't be afraid of it. This was the question. This was the answer it's sending back. We have a confidence score of 98%. That's pretty good. And then here's some other information that I could use if I wanted. We went through here, set a variable for answer, and then that's what we gave back. So bam, success, we got an answer. So we can test it some more. So we can say, how much storage do I get in SharePoint? Oh, let's do this. Let's do that. All right, can we just say start over? I think I added this one, didn't I? Or no? We can double check. All right, got it, working. Let's say yes, and then let's say 4, fine. No. All right, let's publish. Publish. 3 times publish. So what we've done right now is we created this fallback topic. We call the Power Automate workflow that got an answer from the Cog Services for Language. It's pretty cool stuff, if you ask me. Now we're going to publish this bot so we could chat with it without having to be in the kind of bot building. Next, we are going to move on to everybody's most requested is, no matter what it is, can I do it in SharePoint? The answer usually is yes. It's just whether or not you should do it. All right, so if I come over to my bot, I'm just going to, we'll say start over just to make sure. Do I set up my service? All right, so it's working, it's published. Get an answer, say yes. And we'll say, you know what, amazing. No. All right. So now we've got that from our, so now the, all right, I need to kill. Now the bot is set up. There's some things we want to do to it to make it production ready. By the way, none of what I'm showing you or providing you is production ready. You're gonna have to do some error handling stuff. I will say that about 5 times today. But now we've got a bot. So if I want to add questions for it to answer, you or all the people on your team, you're going to give them this link. They're going to come in here. You're just going to add questions and answers. You don't have to touch the bot anymore for it to answer it. Put them in here, save them, and the next time somebody asks a question of the bot, they will be able to, they'll get the answer. So now I'm just running everything in this repository. So now we're going to look at another option. We're going to, instead of putting our stuff here, we're going to put it in SharePoint Online. So this one, since you all are familiar with SharePoint List, this is, I did pre-bake this casserole. We're pulling it out of the oven now. I've got a simple custom SharePoint list called Q&A. I changed the title field to be question, and I added an answer column. It's all just text. Really simple, right? So I don't have all, yes.
Before you get too deep into this, Connor's got a question about
okay, thanks.
Getting a manifest file for people who don't allow side loading of apps and teams.
So Connor, so maybe come off mute. So are you saying you want to like publish it to the store, or you're saying?
Yeah, because we don't allow users to just load up any app that they want. So we'd have to do some sort of publishing to the store to allow that chatbot to happen.
Yeah, so actually this, so I can actually do it right from here. You don't have to grab the manifest. So they can just say, give it to my teammates and shared users, or show it or submit it to you, the admin. So it'll show up in your admin center to be able to publish.
Oh,
or
okay.
You can grab it, or you can grab the manifest here.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep. So for those that didn't see that, this is when I published. If I go into not settings, go into availability options. So I could add this. So right now I added it to my personal context right on the left-hand rail just for me, but I can put it in a team. I can share it with others, and I can give it to Connor or my team's admin. It puts it in the admin center and sits there, says, I got some apps waiting for approval. And then if you did need, so the manifest, as Connor was asking for, is basically what this bot bill goes down to is it's a zip file with a JSON file in it. So curly braces, commas, double quotes that says, here's the URLs, here's the name of it, here's the icon. And then Connor can take that and install it. Good question. Any other questions? All right, thanks, Connor. Connor, Bonnie, you're in the running for the freebies. Nobody else. So sad. All right. All right, we're going to move to, so that's cognitive services for language. It's an option. Really disconnected from Power Virtual Agents, can be used everywhere, which we'll talk about. All right, we're going to move to SharePoint. Here's my SharePoint list, question and answer columns. You're going to have to build everything here. You don't get any question answering specific capability. You want alternatives, you put a column called alternative. You want metadata, you create a column called metadata. But you're going to have to do all the work, and we'll see what all the work means. It's not a heavy lift, but it's more than the one action. So here's my SharePoint list. So now we're going to go to our chatbot, our Power Virtual Agent. And we're going to go back into our fallback. We're going to go into our view, our Power Automate workflow. We're going to edit. So again, keep this in mind, right? We're using this for a chatbot, but really, I could create a Power Automate workflow that triggers from an email and says, and I take that email context and I send it to Cognitive Service for Language. And if I get a response that's 75% confident, I could then respond with an email to that person. You want to read tweets, as Steve said up until maybe this weekend. you can do that. So I can really use this repository. All right, so we're just going to keep that stuff in there. It may slow down our bot a little bit, but we're going to add SharePoint goodness. So I'm going to search for SharePoint. All right, so there's a bunch of stuff in here. And remember I said that all of these actions are just wrappers on APIs. If you don't know what an API is, it's an API is a set of calls that a system can make, and one of those calls could be get file properties, get items. So I might want to get items, but filtering, like nobody's going to type exactly what I type, right? We already said that. That's why the natural language processing in question answering is nice. So really kind of, I think the closest thing is I kind of want to search, but there's no search. But we know SharePoint has search. So what does this mean? This just means there's so many things in the SharePoint API, it's been around for a long time, that somebody didn't go in and create a wrapper for every single call you can make. There's just way too many. They created, there's like 4 or 5 dozen here of the most used calls. Now, there is a lovely person out there who created something, though, that we are going to use that will allow us to call those other API calls without them being an action here. So this send an HTTP request to SharePoint may sound a little scary, but it's not bad. It's going to allow us to call all the other SharePoint stuff to do our cool stuff. I've used the word stuff a lot. So we're going to go to this site. We're going to do a get. Get means give me, right? I'm gonna grab, there's these other verbs that you don't really need to know, but put and post is kind of like I'm gonna send it to you, and then delete's fairly straightforward. All right, so my URI. So I have this linked in the deck in this little gist here. So I'm here. So if you go out to click on the link in the deck, it'll take you to here, and you can copy paste this so you don't have to type it while looking at a screen. So basically what this is going to do for us is calling an API, and that API is search. And my query is going to be my trigger body. We'll see that in a second. And then my query template. This is what I'm sending. Whatever they search for, and then I'm gonna scope it to a specific list. Okay, so I don't want to search all of SharePoint. I just want to search my specific list. So this is going to give us search results on my Q&A list that I could use. All right, let's go do that right now. I'm going to copy paste in my URI. So this is what works for me. We're going to pull in the question from above. That's my search. I only want one result. As I said, you can do whatever you want. And then I'm going to search a specific list. And then we are going to accept application JSON. All right, so that's going to send our search. We're going to perform our search. So then we should get some stuff back. And we need to go through that stuff, that search results, to get what we need. And we're going to use a compose. If you've never used the compose action before, think of it, it's kind of like creating and setting a variable in one action without having to do it in two. So this is gonna get the item ID from search result. And this is also in the place that I showed you before. I need to go into expression. So let's look at that. So if you click the link in the deck, come out here. All right, so what we're doing is we're gonna do a split. Never done a split. Think of split like if you've got a string of text with a bunch of commas in it, and you want to just get all the text in between the commas, you're going to split on a comma. In this case, we're giving it the contents of what we get back. It's a bunch of stuff. We'll walk through this, but I'm going to get a URL, and in that URL is this ID. So I basically just say, I'm trying to get the ID. It's a little bit of a hack, but that's what this thing does. It ain't perfect. It can be improved, no doubt. All right, so this compose is going to evaluate that expression and then give me it as a response. So then what I need to do is get my item from SharePoint using that ID. We are in the Q&A list. And then my ID I got back from this compose. So here's the good and the bad of the compose. The good is I didn't have to initialize a variable and set a variable. So I get one. The bad is, well, now I get this thing just called outputs. It's not super descriptive, right? This is descriptive up here because I gave it a name, get item. But when I put this in here, I just get outputs. Whereas if it was the variable, it'd be more descriptive. So pros and cons there. So I'm treating that like a variable. Now there's my outputs. And then let's set, speaking of variables, let's set our answer variable that we had before to, so now we did a get item from SharePoint. So here's my ID, give me everything about it. So it should give me question, answer, other stuff around that. So I'm going to grab the answer column. That's what I'm going to put in there. And then that's what's going to get returned already. So I'm just adding on to the COG services for language result. Normally you wouldn't do both. You just do one or the other. I'm going to leave them in there for now. So we're going to save, cross our fingers and toes. All right, it's saved. So if I go back, all right, so now we're going to send it a question and we're going to get an answer. So let's pick one that's not in the other one. So let's pick when the Twins won the World Series. So if I should just be able to go to my bot here. When did the Twins? So it's calling two services now, so that's why it's probably a little bit slow. And we have a problem. That's okay, because I can work on problems. So let's open up our flow and see what happened. All right, so we did get a fail. So that's cool. So let's see what happened. So I think what happened is we didn't get a result, but that's okay. Primary result doesn't exist. Let's try again. All right, so I got my answer. So this is a little bit of proof, I think, that, look, should I have expected search to pull that back? Maybe, and it could have just been, maybe I was a little too early, but you'll notice there was a difference between what I asked the first time and the second time. And it didn't quite figure it out. So there's probably some tweaking I could have done in the search, but look, at the end of the day, it's not doing natural language processing. It is just doing a search. So you get what you get. So I need you all, if you're going to use this, you need to put some error handling on here that there's not, it's not pointing it back. But I can go through and see everything that happened. So if I come back in, so I did get a succeed. So if I look at this, let's inspect this a little bit. So we sent our search to SharePoint. What year did the Twins win the World Series? Roll limit 1. And then this is what I got back. And it's a lot. It's a lot. This is JSON. If you're not familiar with JSON, don't worry. It's okay. I'm here. So this is all just the information about that item that I got back in the search result, the SharePoint was that. The one that I care about here. So if we scroll just a little bit, maybe it's down. No. All right. Sorry for the scrolling. Okay, so here's the title of the result. What year, right? That's the question. This is what I was after because I didn't see a good way to get more information. So this is the thing that we're splitting. We're saying, give me everything before and after this ID, and then I just grabbed that one. That was what that split was doing. Give me the one, and then I'm going to use that to go back. The big chunk is just traversing table, rows, cells, path. So I got to this, got the value, got the ID out of this because there wasn't a nice field that said, here's your ID. And then I use that to get my answer. So this is what I meant by, let's go into edit. You gotta do a little more work here. You gotta build it yourself. Yes, it's cheaper from a pay-as-you-go model, but we went from one action from just sending my question to 3 actions, which maybe isn't a ton at the end of the day, but we did this call. I got to configure my search. I got to rip out the result, and then I got to go get the item. So not the end of the world, but you're on the hook for building this out. It's not just a kind of fire and forget. All right. So as I said, you got to add some error handling in here. You got to add some handling for when there's not a question. So I'm going to pause and just say you all know SharePoint, you've at least created lists. Questions, concerns. Could you see yourself doing this? Could you see yourself not doing this? All right, even if you don't do this for question answering, if you've never used the send and HTTP requests, keep this in your back pocket. This is add to your toolbox, because what I found working with other customers that the filtering, like if I got a big list of items and I want to do like, give me where there's this piece of text inside of the title, there's not a lot of good filter options. Like you could do starts with substring doesn't work. There's some other things, but keep this. I could do a search here from this call. I could do any of the SharePoint API calls. I gotta pull my sleeves up a little bit and do some digging. But you can do some powerful filtering here, even if it's not for this specific purpose. All right. So I did want to show one other thing here from a Power Automate perspective before we move on to chat escalation. So just want to do this. I want to go back and look at these other templates. There's a lot of good ones in here. So I mentioned I'm calling out 4 options for storage of Q&A. There's really a lot more. For example, there's if you have answers in a Dynamics 365 knowledge base, like you can use this one. But I want to show you what this looks like. And it's not trying to say this is bad by any means. It's if that's where your stuff is, like let's use that. But look at what they had to do to kind of build it. So I'm just going to scroll. So back to, you got to build it. You got to build the question answering search yourself. That's what they've kind of done here. So they have another repository and they build it on. So if you've got questions answer pairs somewhere else, you could query it. You just got to do the work yourself. Again, by no means is this bad. It's actually really good. There's just a lot going on there that you will have to maintain. Okay, moving on. We did both of these options. We did our get answer. Gonna move on. All right. So inevitably what comes up next is, how are we doing on time? 8 minutes, is that what I got? All right, we're almost done. Next, what I can, and I might speed this up. Inevitably what we want to do next is, if I can't answer the question, then I want to escalate, I want to send it to a human. So I'm gonna create a chat because I am gonna assume that I don't have an omni-channel CRM platform that I can use for this, and it's maybe just smaller scale. So we're gonna create a chat. So let's go into let's go back to our topics, fallback. So we notice we're gonna go to end of conversation. So let's go into that topic. All right, and then there was a point where it said, did I answer your question? If the answer is no, we're going to go to this confirmed failure topic. Then once I'm here, they can say talk to an agent. So let's go to this escalate topic. So that's just how you walk through, how did I know that I wanted to go to escalate? So I'm going to come here, and then this thing is incomplete. Somebody coming off again. All right. So before I go here, the real way to do this, if you had a customer-facing bot, internal or external, and you wanted to escalate to a human, you would use this agent transfers. Now, it requires an omni-channel setup system that knows how to send and receive this. This is what you should use. But if you don't have this, you can create what I'm about to create that may or may not meet your needs. So I'm going to come in here, and I am going to create another flow. You all still see my screen? Yes. Okay. So I'm going to create a flow. Hugo, did you have a question? No. Scared him away. All right, we're going to create a new flow. And this one is going to escalate to our next, to the human. So we're going to ask for a requester ID from the bot. We're going to say who requested it, maybe what their name was, and then maybe what their question was. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a chat.
Hey, Corey, just a 5-minute warning for you.
Yep. So I'm gonna skip this. I'm gonna create a chat. I'm gonna put whoever I determine as the agent that day in a chat with the person that requested it. So I'll show you an existing one just to quick go through it. So I'm going to create a chat. I'm going to put the people in there. I can put the requester ID in there, and then I'm going to post a message. Hey, boy, can you help so-and-so out with the question? And then I'm going to be done. And then they would get a chat that looks something like this. So I can automate connecting the two humans together. Now you could argue this is defeating the purpose of Chatbot. Now they have a human that they could go back to. Yeah, I get it. But I think you can see where you can go with this. So let us get back to, all right. So things to keep in mind, anything you can do in Power Automate, you can leverage in your bot. So I showed you question answering, calling, other things, but you can go do all kinds of other stuff in your workflow, and you can use that from your bot. So you want to get data from different data sources and put them together, go for it. I mentioned it multiple times today, you're not stuck with a bot. build this for your bot. If you put your question answers in a place that anything can get to, then you can use that flow to, for example, answer emails, tweets, etc. So if you have a long running process, these are just things that came up as I was helping people build similar bots. Power Virtual Agents waits for a response from your flow. So when you call that Power Automate flow, it's going to wait to hear back. So if you're doing this long running thing that takes a while, maybe think about putting that in a parallel branch so that you can give your answer back and it can move on and say, hey, we'll send you a note later. So keep that in mind. Do not use Excel as a data source if you can avoid it. It's great for collaborating, working on stuff, but don't put your data in a Excel spreadsheet and use that from Power Automate or PVA. You're just going to run into locking issues. Just avoid it if you can. Power Automate is great for a lot of things. It's not great for extract, transform, and load. So if you're moving 10,000 records a day across things, there's lots of other good tools. You can do it in Power Automate. It's going to be slow. Use a service account. And if you choose to build this stuff, just know that I was lazy and didn't put in error handling and service account and other things. So you got to do some of the stuff your own. Sorry. All right, so 2 minutes. Here's the resources in the back of the deck. I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions that anybody held back. Bonnie, thanks. All right. Well, thanks for the time, everyone. If there's nothing else, I'll give you back 2 minutes.
Corey, thank you very much. Great content.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the automation. As I said, I will be posting the link to the survey in the chat. If again, you could please fill that out, you will be entered in for a drawing for our grand prize at the end of the day, the Microsoft Surface Go laptop. I'm running my wheel right now to figure out who the $25 gift card winner is for the last session. Must not be present to win, but if you're still here, Bonnie Coyer, you are the winner for this session. Congratulations. Those will be sent out, if not today, sometime tomorrow. If you don't see them within 24 hours, please shoot us an email, anyone at the M365 user group. We've had some issues in the past with them going to corporate emails. So if you have a personal email account that you want it sent to, either send that to me privately or throw it here in the chat. Much appreciated. All right, everybody, it is 10:30, so we're jamming right along to our next session. Today we have David and Hugo presenting on It's Alive animation techniques that bring to life SPFX list formatting and the Power Platform. I hope I didn't butcher that for you guys. Real quick before they get started, I am just going to share my screen temporarily.